Evan Weber is an accomplished architect living a seemingly perfect life in a sleek, modern home in Los Angeles. His wife, Karen, is a successful artist who has sculpted a career from her passion. The couple has two young children and a dog named Monkey. It's Father's Day weekend, but Evan opts to stay home to finish a critical project, while Karen and the kids head out to the beach for a family trip. The house is silent as Evan works on his design in his studio, music playing in the background. He pours himself a glass of wine and FaceTimes Karen, who reassures him that they'll be back soon. The camera pans over their home, pristine, filled with artistic decor and photos that suggest a loving, well-maintained life. Late that evening, a thunderstorm rolls in and Evan settles down with his laptop and headphones. Suddenly, a loud knock echoes through the house. Confused and slightly hesitant, he opens the door to find two drenched young women standing in the rain. Genesis, a bubbly blonde, and Belle, a shy brunette, explain they're lost and need to use a phone to call for help. They say their driver dropped them off in the wrong area and their phones are dead. Evan hesitates but ultimately invites them inside, offering them towels and a chance to dry off. However, when he returns, he finds them wandering into his living room, making themselves comfortable. The women introduce themselves as Belle and Genesis. They check the address using the iPad and realize they're far from their destination. Evan offers to call them an Uber, which he does, and the driver is expected to arrive in 45 minutes. The women then ask if they can use his dryer for their clothes, as they don't want to show up at their destination soaking wet. Evan, feeling sympathetic, agrees and finds them something else to wear in the meantime. Genesis's phone is also damaged, so he takes it to see if he can fix it. While he's away, the women start acting oddly, dancing with Evan's dog and making playful but inappropriate comments. Genesis teases him about his age, saying he doesn't look 43. They also ask personal questions about his wife, who is a sculptor. Evan grows increasingly uncomfortable, but tries to stay polite. Belle notices the artwork Karen created and feigns interest, while Genesis jokingly flirts with Evan, touching his arm lightly. Evan laughs nervously but maintains his boundaries, saying he's happily married. Evan checks his phone to see how much longer until the Uber arrives. 20 minutes. As they continue to act strangely, one of the women asks to use the bathroom, leaving Evan alone with Belle. She begins to flirt more openly, but the Uber finally arrives and Evan breathes a sigh of relief. He goes to get their clothes and call them, but they don't respond. When he checks on them, they seduce him, and despite his initial resistance, he gives in to their advances. The next morning, Evan wakes up disoriented. The house is a mess, with clothes, towels, and food scattered everywhere. He finds Genesis and Belle lounging in his kitchen, eating breakfast as if they own the place. They casually joke about last night and mock him for his initial hesitation. Evan tries to regain control, insisting they leave immediately. The women pretend to agree but linger, making excuses about waiting for their ride. Evan's frustration grows when Genesis begins rifling through Karen's belongings, trying on her clothes and mocking her taste. He demands they stop, but the women ignore him, gleefully taking over the house. Evan threatens to call the police, but Genesis counters by claiming they are underage, which would make their encounter illegal. Panicked, Evan offers them money to leave, but they mock him further. Suddenly, Evan's neighbor shows up at the door. Genesis answers and pretends to be a relative of Evan's, but the neighbor senses something is wrong. When she leaves, Evan becomes more aggressive, but the women retaliate by vandalizing his wife's sculpture. They taunt him by saying that calling the police will only make things worse for him. Evan eventually agrees to drive them to their supposed destination, desperate to get them out of his house. During the drive, the women continue to taunt him with flirtatious and provocative remarks, making the atmosphere tense and uncomfortable. They direct him to an unfamiliar area, and when they arrive, they claim they are finally where they need to be. Evan is relieved to see them leave and quickly drives back home, hoping to put the bizarre and unsettling encounter behind him. However, upon returning, he finds his house in disarray, a clear sign that his troubles with the two women are far from over. Later, Evan hears something breaking and discovers a family photo shattered on the floor. Before he can react, Genesis hits him on the head, knocking him unconscious. He wakes up tied to a chair, with the women tormenting him. They mock his fidelity to his wife and his sense of morality. As the situation escalates, they humiliate him further by forcing him into degrading scenarios, including threatening to call his wife during a video chat. Evan pleads for mercy, but they respond with laughter, saying he brought this on himself. Evan eventually manages to escape his restraints and attacks Genesis, but she stabs him in the shoulder. Due to an old injury, the pain incapacitates him, and the women overpower him again. They subject him to further psychological and physical torment, including deafening him temporarily with loud music through headphones. At one point, Evan's friend arrives, suspecting something is wrong. The women try to cover up the situation, but the friend becomes increasingly suspicious. When he confronts them, the women attack him, ultimately killing him in front of Evan. They then continue to destroy Evan's home and possessions, leaving him powerless to stop them. Finally, the women dig a grave in the backyard and tell Evan they're going to kill him. They bury him up to his neck and leave him there, taunting him. They reveal that this entire ordeal was a game to them, and that they specifically target married men. Before leaving, they show Evan a video they recorded of his indiscretions and upload it to social media. They leave him helpless, his life in ruins, and move on to find their next victim.